Hey everybody, I am here with Banjo Guy Ollie. How's it going, Ollie?
Good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for doing it. I've been following your music for a long time now. I mean, you've been
Really, yeah.
posting
Well,
music in your videos for it's got to be 10 years at least, right?
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I've been doing this for I think 7 years, like 2014.
All
I
right, yeah, that
started.
about
Like,
makes sense.
it'll be probably my 8 years because it was February or March. It was March 2014. Yeah, yeah. I remember that because it was my wife's birthday and she was over.
Mhm.
She was gone on holiday with a friend, and so that's when I decided to start recording stuff here, so I wouldn't disturb her. She would need to hear any of it. So yeah, that's how I remember. Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody listening knows who you are, but just in case, the I guess the basic overview of what you do is you are a musician that does sometimes video game covers, sometimes other stuff like that awesome puppet thing. We're gonna have to talk about that before this is over. But and you very often use a banjo, but you also use digital music and all that other stuff as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's moved away from the banjo. The name is stuck, but it's yeah. It's there's very little banjo, in fact, in most of the stuff I do. But it was a good way to get started. Yeah, but yeah, no, correct. And I'd say it's 99.9% video game music covers that I do, at least on that channel. Yeah, yeah.
It- Is that your day job? Or are you a professional musician, or is this
No,
just your
no.
favorite hobby?
Yeah, I know. It's a hobby. It's at this stage, it's a hobby that pays well, but it's a hobby for sure. Yeah, yeah. No, I've a full time job, day job. This is my desk here with my work laptop. So I work from home, which is handy. But no, I'm sort of support development type of guy. So um, yeah, yeah. I need something that pays the bill because even with YouTube and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't quite. Being a musician doesn't quite pay the bills.
Yeah, I think anybody that's ever tried to do it even semi-professionally has learned that very harsh and cold lesson.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I did go full. I remember going full time back in. I think it was 2007 or six when I was still living in Dublin on the east coast of Ireland, and I was playing music full time for about 6 months, and it was miserable. It was probably my most miserable time in my life because it was just yeah, I was just barely scraping a living and just about paying the rent. And I was one of the lucky ones, that could actually make money out of it. But yeah, it's tough being a musician. Although I would say with YouTube and all that now, it's probably a lot easier to at least earn some money. And if you're gigging, if you're touring, or if you're doing just any sort of a live venue stuff, it's a good supplement to that. But yeah, yeah, YouTube has changed a lot of stuff for musicians. It's changing it for a lot of people. It's changed the game for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm a wannabe musician. I was in a band that got as far as you could get whilst like you can't quite say we were successful, but we also got farther than most people I've ever known that've been in a band. So it's one of those, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's kind of interesting because YouTube has been, and social media in general, I think has been like 99% positive for music in general.
yeah.
But the one thing that I think is kind of hilarious, and I know I'm just a grumpy old man for saying this, I know, but it's funny to see the people who are really great at putting together songs and recording and putting together high production mixes and videos, and they step up on a stage and they can't play shit live,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah.
99% of the tracks are pre-recorded,
Of course.
and maybe they're kind of singing along, but they also have background vocals, and they're playing guitar but they're doubling a pre-recorded guitar, and it's like that kind of annoyed me because I'm just a big caveman. Imagine like the Kool-Aid man smashing through your wall playing a heavy metal guitar. That's basically me. So I'm nothing special. No one's ever going to remember my guitar playing, but every note was real,
Yeah,
mistakes or not. And everybody there, whether they thought we sucked or not, was like, well, the fat one could play. So
it's a completely different exercise playing live and being a studio musician, and to the point that you can be excellent at one and not be able to do the other. Either way, it's being able to just record on cue and just stay on the beat without any other reference other than yourself is also, it's an art in itself, and it just requires experience. But playing on stage, as you need the nerves, you need the focus, you need the practice, like you need the skills. It's just you can't hide anywhere.
yeah.
So yeah, playing live is stuff. I used to play live a lot, but I was doing very different stuff to what I'm doing now. I used to play a lot of traditional Irish music,
Mm.
which is very technical, but it's a one genre. It's probably like bluegrass. If you're stuck in that one genre, you develop skills really quickly. So, and you sort of learn faster that way. And because it's mostly played live in sessions or in pub environment, you get to play live and with other people really really quickly. So um, yeah, so it was very very different to what I'm doing now, which is
Yeah,
partly
funny.
why I wanted to do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, go
one
ahead.
of my best friends is actually a school teacher, but also a professional musician that plays in an Irish folk band. So
Oh
that's
yeah, cool.
been, I've been friends with her my whole life basically, and so I've been hearing a lot of these songs. I like them all except Wagon Wheel. If I hear that song one more time, I think I'm just gonna
I'm not even
smash a
familiar with.
guitar through a window. But
Yeah, we didn't do. I like here. You don't really do a lot of songs. It's mostly tunes, like so jigs and reels, and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Um, I used to play a lot of. I used to do a lot of guitar backing or accompaniment, or Irish music in that case, but also a lot of flute. Flute playing was my instrument. Not the. I wasn't even playing the banjo at the time.
Oh wow! So what was the first instrument that you started, and how old were you? I guess too.
um, well, the real instrument was the electric guitar. I think I was 14. Um, but I before that I learned music and some music theory and through my MSX and my Amiga and on my computer. So I was making music like that, or before I even picked up a real instrument. And and don't do that ever. Well, probably not because there's no trackers. But it's the most it's the most unrewarding experience having to pick up an instrument and then because I used to do whole entire compositions on the tracker before, and now I have this thing and I can't get two notes together to play right. It's so disheartening. It was
It's the
hard.
same with musicians who play instruments who then tried to go and play garage band back in the day.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was that was maddening for me and so many of my friends. Like this is not the same thing. Stop bragging that you could beat me at guitar.
yeah. Yeah, so that was really my first proper instrument. Like we did recorder in school and things like that, but that was my first proper instrument that my friends could go, wow, you can't play those three notes together. Yeah,
What kind of music were you playing back then?
a lot of 80s rock.
Mm,
The Scorpions. We were like three of us were mad into the Scorpions at the time, and then anything from obviously Iron Maiden and Def Leppard and that kind of glam heavy
mm.
rock and that was going around at the time. Um, Guns N' Roses is probably my favorite band of all time, really, if I'm honest. But they came out even
Awesome
a
band.
bit later. But geez, that was a shock when they came out. I still remember getting
Yeah.
goosebumps when I heard that first album. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of that stuff, and then I sort of fell into the traditional music because I'm originally from France, in
Mm.
Brittany, in France. So it's a small Celtic part of France, and there's a lot of crossover between Irish music and Breton music. So I don't know how it happened really, but I started learning a lot of those tunes, a lot of old traditional tunes from Britain and from Ireland. And then eventually moving to Ireland, I already sort of knew like an extended repertoire of Irish tunes, so I was able to just fit in really, really easily in a session already. Yeah, I think it was in college, if I remember now. It was in college. I met some other musicians that played traditional music, and I had learned some on my own. So it was cool to be able to play with them in a pub environment. That was really cool. The first time I sat down and played with other musicians in a pub, and then you realize you can't play with other musicians because I never played with anybody else.
Yeah, that was always interesting. The first time you play with new musicians, even as you get more intermediate and touching into the pro side of things, it's kind of funny to sit down with people, especially people who are supposedly pros, and it's like, geez, it makes you think. Like, is it really the combination of people, or am I just shit? Are they just shit? Is it what is it? But it's always interesting when you start playing music with new people.
Yeah, the first few sessions you don't like. You'd think we'll bring our strength together, but now actually you just you mingle all your flaws, and the end result is absolute horseshit. But it takes a few sessions to play well together, unless you're super. Everybody's a super pro, but which nobody was when we were in college. We were all very much amateur musicians. But yeah, that's yeah. And I think I was lucky to be able to learn fast and play with other people kind of quickly. Irish music definitely sped up all that kind of stuff because you're playing with people all the time, and then you're swapping tunes. So somebody knows that tune, that jig or that reel, you learn it, and then you end up just learning a huge repertoire really quickly and practicing all the time in between sessions. So it's just it's for anybody who wants to get proficient at their instrument. I definitely recommend stuff, anything like bluegrass, or even old. You have the what is it, old time music over in the States, which is sort of very much like jigs and reels. I remember I lived in California for about a year, and I remember going to a few sessions of old time music. That's what they call it, I think.
That
Yeah,
might be the name of it. Yeah.
yeah.
It's weird for a country that's so young. There's so many different styles of music that are really like centered out of here and stuff.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, I've been going back. I'm not so much recently in the past, I'd say 6 7 years, but I used to go pretty much every year, visiting friends. But I worked there in LA for about a year in 2000, was it? Yeah. And I met a lot of musicians and a lot of very sort of niche groups of musicians. So there was obviously the Irish scene, the old time. There's a lot of bluegrass stuff being played, and I'd go to festivals, and there was stuff from cultures I didn't even know were in America, and suddenly there's a whole scene for it. And you guys have such a big country over there, like any even a niche kind of stuff. Like we see it in retro gaming, like a convention, and suddenly you have a few thousand people. I was at a convention this weekend here, Amiga Ireland, which is
Mhm.
probably our biggest one, and it was at most 150 people there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think Too Many Games and the Portland Retro Gaming Expo were the biggest ones that I've been to, and
Yeah,
those were thousands and thousands of people coming
yeah,
through.
it's great. No, it's great. So any I remember any small venue was just bigger than the any venue I'd played in Ireland when. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of funny too. Like when things are so sectional here. So if you like, I grew up hour and a half, 2 hours out of New York City, and to see the gigs that we saw growing up, the local gigs, with the kids play and VFWs and stuff like that for anybody that's here, and you'd get 20 people, and it's wow, it was packed today, and then you actually go into New York City, and live music ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's more popular than others, but I played a gig once that was I thought it was going to be like a blow off gig, and there was like 75 people there. I'm like, whoa, this is
yeah. There you
awesome.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Nobody was there to see us, by the way. So that was one of those like fight hard to earn everybody's attention type of thing. But it still is pretty neat. Better than playing to an empty house.
Yeah, that's a tough one. When but I remember, like that was my pretty much my living for a while, just doing gigs to entertain people that were in the pub. So they're not coming for you. They're just in the bar or in the club, and in the pub, and you're just playing to just provide some background noise. And if somebody decides they don't like what they're hearing, it's just it gets quirky very very quickly. So yeah, it's not the most pleasant experience, but it paid the bills for a while. But I couldn't do it for too long. How long did you play in the band, or did you gig then?
I was in and out of bands for a while. Everybody. I know this is an insulting thing to say, but anybody that's ever dabbled in pro music knows that most of the people you meet are very much artists and not very reliable. So every time I've started a band, been in a band, I've been almost thrown out of a band because I worked harder than everybody else, and that pissed them off, and they took it personally. And so the
Yeah,
last band that I was in lasted like 2 or 3 years, and we were just about to get signed to go as the first act on you know a, a tour huge for us, tiny for real people. Probably would have been like 100, 200 people a night. But and then that band imploded, the headlining band there. So it was one of those, and then it all kind of fell apart. And oddly enough, I know I've told the story before, so I'll skip through it. But it kind of fell apart during the mix because the main songwriter is also a drummer, so her hearing was shot for being a drummer all those years
yeah,
without earplugs. And the producer was like late 50s, so his hearing was shot. So all the mixes I'm getting, I'm like, what is this sound? This is ear piercing. I'm getting headaches when I listen to the mixes, but they physically couldn't hear it, and none of
yeah,
us knew that. So now we're months arguing with each other, lost all trust in each other, and it was nobody's fault because I'm going, how do you not hear that? And they're looking at me going, is this a power thing? Is he trying to is he trying to be difficult because there is no sound? And then months later, one of my friends who's also a musician sent me one of his mixes, and I was like, dude, I don't care how mad at me that you get, but you need to explain to me what the fuck is wrong with this song. And he's like, come here. And he puts, we each put on a set of headphones, and he goes, raise your hand when you start hearing the sound, lower the hand when you stop hearing it. And it was a tone generator. And we both put our hands up at about the same time. And he put his hand down like 20 seconds before I did. He's like, your hearing's fine. That's the difference.
Oh wow.
So it was one of those weird things where like the band imploded because nobody trusted each other anymore because we all thought we were lying to each other. And it was nobody's fault. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Bands
close though.
bands are tough in environments. Like if you think of all the bands that have come and gone, or that have ever existed, like I'd say, I mean, I'm pulling this statistic out of my ass, but I'd say 99% of them have gone. It's it's just very few bands last the test of
Mm.
time, really, and it takes far more than just music to gel a band together. Like and one of my best friend here was in the band for about, I don't know, I want to say 10 years. That was doing really well around the country. They were going to Europe, did a few tours of Europe. And one day, sort of out of the blue, he says, "Oh no, we just called it a day. That was it." I said, "What happened? Like, you were doing like really well, like you were really busy." And they said, "Yeah, but we can stand the sight of each other." And that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
Just touring together, and and people. And said slowly it happened. They sort of fell apart and weren't even like spending time with each other outside of gigs. And what started as there's just a group of friends and a cool dream of starting a band, and just slowly fizzled out. Yeah, because essentially just spent too much time. And then like that, it was like artistic differences, which is a funny thing to say, but everybody is a diva to some extent, so it just makes working. It takes a proper hierarchy of egos to keep a band together.
Mm.
And some people willing to just, okay, well, if he wants that, just being, I was going to say subservient to somebody else, but more, yeah, a hierarchy of egos is the way I would describe it. You just need some people to kind of maybe recede in the corner and leave decisions to other people, which is really hard to do when you've spent your life learning an instrument, and you're so passionate about the music you're making, and suddenly, yeah, the singer wants all the decision making, or the guitar player wants his slot here when it should really be a drum solo, because you know
Yeah,
yeah.
that was actually one of the funny arguments that we got into in the mix. Was I was going, listen, I repeat this bar of the solo, and we did it live again last night, and I just, people in the crowd were getting into it, and then I repeated the bar, I could kind of see him fading, so I think we should cut the solo in half. And she was like, no, I like it double. And the producer was like, hey, I don't mean to intervene, I don't want to interrupt, but if a guitarist ever tells you that they want the solo shorter, you shut up and listen.
Yeah,
I was like, that's so funny because it just to fit the song better. So, but
yeah.
yeah, it's no one wants their parts cut out unless it really is the right thing to do.
Was it pre internet or pre YouTube then, your music?
Oh no, it was 2015
All right, so
or
it's
2017
relatively
or something. Yeah,
recent.
I was one of those weird ones that I got out of high school, went to some crappy tech school, and landed a corporate job when I was 19, and like did the business thing. Landed another job that I got to travel all around the world, which was mind blowing for a poor kid that never went anywhere. And now I'm just all over. And then that job ended, and I got a job where I worked from home with a ton of downtime. One of those, like, you do system work, so you got to do a lot of click and wait. And
Yeah,
I'm very bad at the waiting thing. It's one of the worst things. I have no patience with stuff. So that's why I
yeah.
started RetroRGB, and that's where I started another band, because I was like, I need something to do. So I
Oh
kind of
yeah,
did
no,
the
I know.
reverse. I did all the silly kid shit when I was like late 20s, early to mid 30s.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that. I can't. I need about three activities at the same time. Otherwise, I just, yeah, lose my head. Um, yeah, I've two channels. Like, I've retro restoration, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I have a whole arcade room here, so I have a lot of PCB repairs and monitor repairs as well. It's probably more up your alley.
Yeah, you want
Repairing
to talk a little bit
CRTs.
about that? Because I'm not sure if, it's very likely that people listen to your music and just aren't even aware of this whole other side of the stuff that you do.
I get that on the other side as well. People who follow the It's called the 8-bit man shed, that retro channel. I don't know I'm making music. Every now and then I get a comment, oh, I didn't know you played any instrument. This is, but yeah, I run another channel called the 8-bit man shed. It's relatively small. I think it's got what 7,000 or almost 8,000 subscribers, and it's more a vlog really of my just me fixing stuff that I have here, or just picking up. At the moment I'm very much into picking up broken synthesizers, so and fixing them. I have a video coming on a DX21, but also I have about, I don't know, I think 15 arcade machines, so that comes with a good bit of maintenance. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so repairing the PCBs, repairing the monitors, and doing full restoration jobs as well, like woodwork and metalwork and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's fun. It's just a way to document the hobby. I started it because these were the videos I was looking for when I started, you know, getting into arcade collecting, because it's time and money consuming. So, and I couldn't quite find any. So I was like, okay, well, I'll teach myself and then document what I do. So I started doing that pretty much at the same time as the other channel, the music channel. And yeah, it's me going over schematics and just going, okay, we got a we got a mux here sending this signal to here, and that kind of stuff. It's very boring. It's a shaking camera, but it seems to be quite popular. It's actually growing faster than my music channel at the moment. The rate of subscribers is actually faster on this one.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I describe a lot of my live streams as boring as well, and a lot of people, in a nice way, give me shit for that because they're like, "No, no, it's only boring if you're not into this stuff.
Yeah,
If
of
this
course.
was
Yeah.
something you're interested in, it's not boring at all." So
No,
it's
exactly.
I try not to. I try to overcompensate because I just want to make sure that people know the difference. Like, hey, here's this crazy fun stream where Mike Chi and I are going to go through RetroTink features, and hey, this stream is going to be me testing the same thing 1,000 different ways to make sure I don't screw up a review. It's super boring, so I just try to overcompensate on that side.
Yeah, and there's a category of people who are really into that as well, just as much as you are, and very often, even for those things I consider boring, like people will tell me, oh, like even if I don't know much about it, or follow it, like I'll just have it in the background as sort of a company while they're doing their own stuff. Like, but yeah, I know boring is a relative word. word. I don't find it boring, but yeah, there's some stuff I wonder. Like I'm soldering, putting together an Amiga 1200
Mhm.
at the moment. The Re Amiga, so it's all SMD stuff. So I'm not going to stream that. I might document the making of that, but I'm not going to show the soldering part of things, because it's just this. I've put 300 at the moment. I'm kind of halfway there. Resistors and capacitors, SMD.
Ugh.
So yeah, it takes a while. So that's boring. Okay. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite arcade machines that you have?
Oh, Outrun.
I
Yeah.
just sold mine. I loved
Yeah.
that run.
Outrun, definitely.
Do you have stand up or sit down?
I have a turbo Outrun stand up, and I have an Outrun stand up as well. Yeah, I'd love a sit down. I know a friend of mine bought one recently, and it's just sitting in a storage um, place, and he says, he'll restore it, and it's been years and he hasn't done anything. And I'm secretly hoping he'll forget, or get lose interest in it and sell it to me at some point. Yeah, I'd love a
Yeah,
sit down.
or
I'd love a
trade you. Take
proper
your stand up that's already restored. You get to sit
something like
down, and
that. Yeah,
there
yeah,
you
something
go.
like that. I have a double scud race that I'm
Oh,
restoring at the
cool.
moment. So I'm putting a MAME in one, and I might put an outrun in the other one for now. Just outrun, and just play outrun sitting down. It's not moving though. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
You want to sit down
yeah. What
camera.
that game still holds up to this day, 100%.
It really does. Like I have turbo outrun, and it's aged. It's okay, but it's clearly aged. I have, I can play. Anyway, Outrun still somehow stands up. I have a Chase HU as well. I need to restore.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I have a Power Drift. It's aged as well. Chase is okay, but it has aged to some extent. But Outrun, I still find fresh every time I press that start button. and you leave that kind of yeah, it still feels fresh. Like yeah, great game. The second to that is probably Arkanoid for me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that game a lot.
love Arkanoid. I have that in a. It was a conversion because it was a conversion kit Arkanoid. It wasn't sold as a single cap, so it was converted from a Dig Dug, Atari
So
Dig
it
Dug.
still has a spinner in it and everything, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's a spinner, but yeah, they just changed the panel. That's really also that's needed. Whoever did the conversion did a great job because it's non-destructive. So they've actually kept all the pins on the connector. If you want to put a Dig Dug back, you just put the pin back in, and that's it.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but at this stage, I'm like, well, don't really care for Dig Dug to start with, but
Yeah.
now I can sort of claim I have both cabs. I have an Arkanoid and a Dig Dug.
Funny, the Arkanoid is another game that absolutely holds up, and I know a bunch of people that play it on their cell phone. Just one of those, like, I got to kill a
Yeah,
couple minutes in line at the
yeah.
supermarket or something, and it's such a basic concept that absolutely works.
Yeah, that's and the simpler, the sometimes the better it holds up. But Arkanoid is certainly, yeah, it's because it's fun. It's really hard, but it's still fun even when it's hard. I have a Donkey Kong, and I'm the only one that plays Donkey Kong here. People that come in, they say, "Oh, cool, Donkey Kong." They try it and go, no, yeah, let me play Arkanoid. Um, yeah, I mean, people are going to hate me. I don't think Donkey Kong holds the same replayability all these years after as a game like Arkanoid for novice, for people who just play casually, or for people who aren't necessarily gamers themselves. It is you can access Arkanoid much easier, I find.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Uh, it's funny seeing their kids come in the arcade for the first time because their first reflex is always to kind of put their hands over the screen and try to make they think it's
Try
a
to
touch
touch it.
screen. They've
Yeah.
never seen a CRT or even a control. They don't even know what to do with it. So it takes them a little bit to get used to an
My
old school
absolute
controller.
favorite was when a friend of mine brought her 8-year-old over, and behind the projector over there is a 36-inch JVC D series. And I pressed the power button, and it goes boing, and the kid jumped back, and his eyes bug out, and he goes, "Is it supposed to do that?" I was laughing so hard. I'm like, "Yeah, kid, you're fine. Don't worry."
Yeah, I know, I love it. Yeah, there's something about showing kids. I think they're all, even if they don't know how to play these things, they always smile and they always kind of laugh, and because it's all the lights, all the sounds. There's something about that. Even like to us, it's very nostalgic to hearing those sounds and seeing those big CRTs producing, light. But for kids, yeah, it's just the excitement of all those lights and all those kind of noises coming from everywhere. It's really funny. Every time they step into the arcade, you can see them just going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I had my nieces over a couple months ago over the summer, and I walked them in. I was like, "All right, what do you want to play?" And they're just looking at me like, "Well, what is there?" And I said, "Well, let's try a shooter." So I just picked whatever top-down shooter was the easiest to load, and they immediately got into it
Yeah,
because it's just such a simple concept.
immediacy. Yeah,
Control it with this, fire with this, use your bomb sparingly, don't get hit. And they got really into it immediately because it
yeah,
was just one of those, fun, simple things that you don't have to. There's not really a learning curve, and it gets harder quick, so you don't get bored that easily. And it was neat to watch that. That's fine. I wonder if their parents thought it was a violent video game or something, but whatever.
oh, it's far more violent
Yeah, a
nowadays.
top-down shooter is not going to turn somebody into a serial killer. I don't think
Yeah,
any video game would ever turn anybody into anything. That's just my opinion, though. I'm not a
yeah,
fan.
yeah. No, yeah, no, I don't think so either. But what machines do you have then?
At the moment, I've had a Mortal Kombat machine that I had to sell at a Neo Geo conversion. I had just sold an Outrun, and I have a Sammy Video World Candy Cab that I have a vertically oriented screen in that I'm about to do a tube swap on it, and then I have a Sega Astro City, which I just got that I kind of get scammed on, but my friend Jose has been helping me restore it. And the final piece of the puzzle is the yoke needs to be adjusted because it's off. You could see the red, green, and blue
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
pattern over it, and we hope that's the
I'd say
problem.
that drives you mental.
Yes. And it's funny because I love the imperfections of CRTs. As
Yeah,
long as
yeah,
the geometry isn't totally fucked,
yeah.
I've learned to just appreciate this as the experience. But like I find myself doing this as I
Of
start to
course,
play the
yeah.
game, trying to figure out like it just annoys me. So yeah, that one hopefully we could finish that one up.
Yeah, I'll be more forgiving. Like if it's glaringly obvious that it needs adjustment, that it's too blurry. Yeah, of course. But otherwise, I'll probably be more forgiving. Going, good enough to play.
Yeah, especially things with like centering and older games, because Mister really does a great job reproducing the original signal. So it's not like software emulation where everything can be perfectly centered. Everything's sending their weird off-spec signal to it. So, I've had a couple people come over and be like, "Hey, something's wrong with your monitor. It's wiggling on the right side." And I'm like, "That's exactly what it would have done in the arcades back
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
day too."
exactly. Yeah.
So, gotta just learn to
Oh, I
love it.
didn't know that. Yeah, I never got into the Mister stuff yet. It's unlikely I will at the moment. It's still very expensive and probably unavailable anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
the D10 comes, you could get a batch here and there,
yeah.
but I mean, you're going to want to get a good JAMA adapter. So you're really looking at like probably $500 worth of stuff to start yourself out.
Oh
But
man.
but that's only for JAMA stuff. People love to say Mister costs $1,000. It doesn't. But
Yeah, yeah.
for
No,
JAMA, you have to have the adapters for that one. So
500 is still very substantial though. For because
yeah.
like the use I would have, and I have a few Raspberry Pis with the that here that thing, the RGB Pi.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I have one of those. I
Yeah,
think I gave that one to Jose actually.
yeah. I got a few now, and what I'm doing is just I put a one game in it because I'm just sick of repairing PCBs at this stage.
Mm,
Like when you've repaired the same PCB 4 or 5 times with a different error or a different, IC failing. Especially some of them are just littered with those Fujitsu ICs that just love to fail one after the
yeah.
other. Um, and it's not like you can replace like all 60 of them on a one PCB. Like it just you fix the one that's bad, and if you see other of that type, because they're probably of the same batch, you replace them. But so I've had so many PCBs come back on the bench, so I'm like, I'm just sick of it. So I just leave the original PCB in there, and I just put one of those. For casual playing, it's more than fine. But the cool thing is, it well, probably not anymore because you can't find Raspberry Pis either anymore.
Yeah.
But it was a relatively cheap solution for a dedicated one game setup. Um, which the Mister, obviously, if you pay €500, $500 for a Mister, you're not going to run it as a dedicated one game machine. You want that for a multi system, multi core, multi game setup, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wonder if someday people would find a way to spin off just individual cores to cheaper, smaller FPGAs. So
So
rather than spend 250 on the I/O board, it would be 275 with the full board with the FPGA on it that only has that one core. And maybe you even need a USB programmer to update it because it just does that one thing.
so I have I have one board called JAMA MSX or whatever. Yeah, but it's exactly that. It's a guy called Fab F, and he does a lot of MSX repros and carts and that kind of stuff. But he developed that. It's just an FPGA MSX, so it's just a one chip, and it outputs to a JAMA connector with a small resistor ladder for RGB, and that's it.
Hmm.
As simple as it comes. As simple as it comes.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's just so I have one in my cab where I can actually run my MSX game original cartridges, um, and play my games in an arcade setup environment. All my MSX games. So, but I was at him for like to actually sell it or release the Gerbers, and he hasn't done either of these things. So I don't know what his plan is with it. I'd love to see him first making some money out of his work because he spent a lot of time on it, and also people enjoying his work because it's actually a great option. So stuff like that I think would be fantastic, like single cores that output to JAMA, and that's it, on a single FPGA chip. And it's a drop-in chip as well. You don't need to solder anything. You just buy the little unit. I think I bought it for, I don't know, 20 quid on eBay, and that was
Hmm.
it. Whatever it was. Yeah, really, really cool thing. I don't have it here. It's in my room, but I've my friend Terrible Fire just made this a while back. It's a small MSX. You know the MSX computer?
I've never used one, but
Yeah,
I am now aware of it because that wasn't really something that we got here in the
sure.
States. So all of my friends from overseas have been educating me about that, and I've been, following all the good channels, RMC,
Yeah, yeah,
Reese, Miss Mad Lemon, all those, great channels that,
yeah.
go through those.
Oh, RMC ended up. He ended. I have the Yamaha MSX that he showed on his channel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he sent it to me afterwards.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to go to the cave and check that out?
No, well, that's in England, so
Right. Yeah. I
across
didn't know if you had
the
a chance to
waters.
pop over or something.
No, I don't know, and God, I haven't been to England since I was a kid. Really.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, no, no, no. I didn't get a chance to. Maybe I'd love to. Like at some point, I just met Neil at Amiga Ireland. He came over for the weekend, so we met for the first time. Um,
that's awesome. Yeah. Neil's a good guy. I like him.
yeah, lovely fella. Absolutely. Yeah.
Was Richard there as well?
No, 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 no.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
Richard's been working on a bunch of cool projects. I got to keep my mouth shut, but they don't stop working over there. Let me just say that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's certainly
When you do
busy.
your oh, sorry, everybody. There's obviously a very big, sometimes big delay with this, so I apologize if I'm ever stepping on you when you start to talk.
No worries, no worries. Um, yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
When you do your arcade machine work, have you done tube swaps yet? And have you had to deal with switching chassis and calibrating it and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, often because most of the I do a lot of like raids into old operator stuff. So I just pull
Mhm.
like either machines or even I I've enough machines, so I'm looking for parts, so old chassis and monitors. But a lot of the tubes have that burn on them, especially the tubes that were pulled from poker machines, the old poker machines, or gambling machines would have that burn because there was no screensaver mode or attract mode on it. It just stayed on that screen, so you can see the cards on the screen burnt in. So, but the chassis itself is fine. It's just the tube is burnt. So yeah, I've been, people know me now. So whenever they have an old TV screen, they or tube, they ring me or give it to me. So I've done tube swaps, plenty of tube swaps, and plenty of
That's awesome. This is
chassis
the
repairs.
first one I've done mostly myself. Usually, I either assist Jose or I hold his beer while he does it. But
Yeah.
the one problem I've been running into is that the monitor I'm putting in, sitting right next to me on the floor, is a 24-inch, so it's pretty heavy, and the mounting pins on the side, like the little clips that they have, don't quite line up to what's there.
Oh yeah, that can be a
So
pain.
I gotta like cut out a piece of cardboard that's in the exact same shape, so I don't have to hold this 50-pound thing up, and then I have to try to figure out how to make a metal bracket just to to put two nuts and bolts in so I can hold it. But then doing it that way, you got to make sure it's centered because you could very easily get it to fit, and then you realize that
Yeah.
it's slightly askew. So it's kind of rough. Any tips for that?
I've done that once. It wasn't a big monitor; it was actually a 14-inch, so it wasn't as heavy. But just to keep it in place, I have a MIG welder,
Mm, wow,
so
that's awesome.
I made a small bracket and just went zap, 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 and that's it.
That is awesome.
Gasless MIG welder, you'll find them for cheap on eBay. Just obviously be careful, but yeah, it's very handy. I'm not a welder by any sort of a trade, or I didn't train or anything like that. But I bought one day on eBay and just watched loads of tutorials and practiced until I was happy enough that you know sanding and grinding could correct my mistakes afterwards, but it was still solid enough to last for a few years. So yeah, I've
Always
repaired.
wear eye protection. Anybody listening, always,
Oh
always. I
yeah,
had a
yeah,
friend go
yeah,
blind for 2 days because he wasn't wearing. He was just looking right at it while he was welding.
yeah,
And I went over his house. He was a little older than me, and he was welding something. I was like, "Man, that looks bright." And he goes, "Don't look at it." He's like,
yeah.
"You'll go blind." I'm like, no, "Seriously?" I was young. I was like 15, 16.
Oh, it's
And he,
yeah, for real. Like it's yeah. Don't look at it and wear protective clothing when you do it as well.
yes,
I've
burn
made the
yourself pretty
mistake
easy.
to weld something in sandals one day.
Oh,
Yeah, this is a mistake I will not make ever again.
yeah, that's gonna sting. So,
There's a channel that I follow, and I'm trying to look at it right now. I forget it, but it's essentially it's people just making machine equipment, and it's called Discovering Skills, and making like heavy duty machine equipment in Pakistan with.
hmm.
So they have some equipment, but let's just say health and safety isn't at the core of their concerns. So you're watching guys kind of solder or weld stuff, and all they have is a little piece of cardboard just to kind of hide the most of the
Wow.
the light. But yeah, they're in sandals and shorts and robes and whatever, and yeah, it's I mean, I'm sure there's casualties, and we're seeing the guys that have survived, but it's quite impressive the way they work. Um,
Jeez.
yeah,
It's
it
funny when Electro Boom does unsafe things. That's not so funny to watch though.
it's well, yeah, but he's controlled. I mean, he knows what he's doing at the same time. Like
Yeah.
he's not like you see those viral clips that come on Facebook or Twitter sometimes of compilations of him going, being zapped and all that. And it's funny watching the comments of people thinking, "Oh, this old dad shouldn't be handling electric." Now the guy, like, it's a skit. The guy knows what he's doing.
Yes, absolutely. Still funny as hell though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This because he's got that sort of dad face on him, like that
Yeah.
is has discovered like batteries, but doesn't quite know how to handle them. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, those are always entertaining. You mentioned, your first musical compositions were using trackers and digital, and you still do some of that stuff as well on your main channel and everything. Um, do you have any tips on how people who wanted to get started with that can go? Because I've asked a lot of people that same question, and everybody has a slightly different answer. So I want to just keep asking it.
tips. In what sense? Like, what? How to get started, or?
Yeah, so like I have an Amiga or an MSX or something, and I want to start creating music, but I just don't even know what to do next. What do I do from here?
Okay, well, I would actually say don't bother with those machines if you want to get started properly, because the thing people don't tell you when they compose is, like, on the Amiga there's no Control C or Control V or undo, Control Z, all that kind of stuff. So get an emulator or get a PC version. So Pro Tracker has a cool PC version that works exactly the same way, but will allow you, better control and some amount of, is there Control C, Control V? No, I'm not even sure. Or Octamed, or get any tracker, and um, just load a few mods first and isolate the mods and see what somebody else has done. First, I'm very big believer of if you want to get started in something, just try to reproduce what somebody else has done first. Like, study
Hmm.
that, see how they've done it, and it'll allow you to understand why they've done it that way, and what the underlying logic. And so you see a tracker, you see all those effects. Okay, what is that letter for? What does it do? And I think it's the best way to learn. Just try to reproduce something that you like first, and then make your own stuff after that. But if
It's
you're trying
so
to
funny how
jump
many
in and
things that
do
applies
everything,
to.
yeah, exactly. If you're trying to jump in and just compose something, you're going to be overwhelmed because you don't know the tool. You're not familiar with it. You have ideas, but by the time you figure out how to do them, you'll have forgotten them. Especially in music, it's so fleeting. Like, it has to be on the moment. When you've a musical, like, you're a musician. If you How many times did you walk up an alley or somewhere, or had a shower, and you just thought of something? You just thought of a line. Oh, that'll be a cool riff. Oh yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. Oh, as soon as I get home, I need to record that. And you arrive home and you're going, uh what
Yeah.
was it? I can't even remember. You've forgotten it. So know the tool first, reproduce somebody else's work, learn the tool that way, and then do your stuff, and then you can do it spontaneously, because you don't have to worry about what's where in that software. And yeah, like you said, it goes for so many things,
Yeah,
whether.
learning how to play an instrument. You don't pick up a guitar and write your first song. I'm sure there's somebody out there that did, but
Yeah,
mostly you learn somebody else's song to learn how a song is formed with your hands. And even soldering, I know a bunch of people that learned how to create and design their own boards by basically like buying a Voltar board, reverse engineering it, making it for them, not selling it, not selling a clone. But they got in doing so, exactly as you said, they figured out why people did it the way they did, and now they took that knowledge and went, well, no one's done that for this PC, so I'm going to add a mod board for this one over here, and
yeah,
that no
yeah.
one else has done. And it's very cool to see stuff like that, and it's neat to apply it to everything basically.
Yeah, the cool thing with trackers is you don't necessarily to know much about music to start making music with trackers, because it's cut in numbers, so you have 64 lines, and it's essentially, multiples of 2 and 4s, and so you can actually count your way through a beat and go, okay, one beat here, three spaces, one beat, that kind of stuff. So you can do it that way, and just learn mathematically how to work a 4/4 time signature, and then from there, maybe add a bass line, see what works, what doesn't. Maybe learn about chords. Why are chords done that way on trackers? Well, it's because it's semitones, and it goes so many semitones and so many semitones to get a triad, or on a major chord or a minor chord. So you kind of, it's easy to learn that way with a tracker in a way
Hmm.
that makes sense and is kind of fun, as opposed to having to learn with the piano. It's not a bad way to learn music. That's the way I learned music anyway. I didn't have any sort of formal lessons or education in any of that stuff.
Did you have formal lessons when you picked up guitar, or did you just kind of mess
No,
around with
yeah, I just messed around with it, grew my hair, and just.
it?
No, I never really had lessons for any of these instruments.
I took
But
lessons for guitar for 2, 3 months, I think, when I was like 13, and that was it. I was just kind of couldn't afford to keep doing that, but my mom had bought me a weird guitar. I loved it so much, a Kramer Voyager. It's like,
your first
it's
guitar,
metal.
though.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love it. It was
Yeah.
I only play weird guitars now. I'm a weird guy, so it's perfect. I play crazy flying V guitars, and
Oh,
it just
cool.
fits me. Yeah, it's funny that the musician that plays in that Irish band, the last band I was in, I was like, well, everybody's always telling me how my look is wrong. I gotta, I don't look right. My guitar stands out too much. So I started with like a Slash style LTD, and she came to see me one time, and she was like, "Can I give you a piece of advice?" And I'm thinking, she's a professional musician. She's a music teacher. I'm like, "Oh shit, here's some nerd knowledge here." I
Yeah.
was expecting her to talk about my playing, and she's like, "You got to go back to playing your V's." It's like, why? She's like, you're just this big fat man with a little guitar. It looks weird. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit your personality. It doesn't fit. It's like, well, Slash plays one of these. She's like, Slash is 5'2". Grab a giant flying V and be Bob again. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. So I never looked back.
Yeah. Also, he's Slash. That dude could play anything. He'll still look cool playing it.
Oh, absolutely,
Flying V's are cool.
absolutely.
They also make sense for like access, like far up the neck.
Yeah, it also is. I guess I'm cheating when I do this, but some of the tap, and I'm not like a sweep tap guitarist. I'm not periphery or any of those.
Yeah.
But where if I have to do stuff where both hands are going crazy or I have to move, the bottom part of the V, I will balance up against the inside of my leg so the guitar stays still as I'm
Yeah.
quickly moving
There
across
you
the
go.
neck. So, I know it's cheating. It's like the save states of guitar playing, but whatever. I'm still playing the notes myself. So,
There's no cheating if it works. That's always been my motto.
and if you're actually the one playing the notes, if you're not miming to a track, then
Look,
you're not cheating.
my whole channel is based around mistreating all these instruments and playing them in situations where they shouldn't be played. So yeah, the cheating is good. Trust me, if it works.
I wanted to ask, have you heard the band Steven Seagulls?
Yes, 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 yeah. No, I'm aware. For a while when I started the channel, I think for about 2 years flat, once a week, somebody would send me their Thunderstruck or whatever other thing they did. Yeah,
Because it's
uh,
funny, you mentioned liking Iron Maiden when growing up,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we covered the Trooper. And I actually have a
Oh
video
yeah,
of me playing a Dave Mustaine double neck guitar on Webster Hall in New York City, playing the Trooper. It's one of my proudest moments. And when I heard their version of the Trooper, I was just like, "This is amazing!
yeah.
Like
It's
this is
pretty cool. Yeah,
absolutely cool." So,
there was another band called Hayseed Dixie
hmm.
that did bluegrass covers of a lot of metal stuff, like especially Metallica and AC/DC and Um, yeah, but yeah, Steven Seagal, they went viral for ages. Like, yeah, but for every week for about 2 years, I was getting that video sent to me.
That's funny. That is really funny.
So I love it, but also hate it. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I know, but I'm not them. Okay. Especially
Yeah,
when I
I know.
did
I mean,
those.
I wouldn't have even brought it up until you said
No,
Iron Maiden, and I
okay,
was like, that's going to be one of the best Trooper covers I've ever heard in my entire life, metal
yeah.
or not. So,
No, and it's really cool what they did. Like it works really well, and the setting as well is perfect. And but especially when I did those Metallica and Rage Against the Machine covers,
yeah,
I was getting them daily. Then people were sending me that video daily.
that's so funny. So, could you talk a little bit about the puppet video? Was that like an ongoing thing? Did I miss something? Because I just laughed my ass off at that. I thought that was so good and so funny.
I made that ages ago. I got the puppet is here, right here,
Yep.
Simon. And I was I think it was 2015 at least, yeah, when I got him. Um, yeah, I was just enjoying a few whiskeys on and just going on Etsy and see what was cool. And I saw the puppets. I bought it, and it arrived here from Texas, of all places.
Hmm.
And it arrived here, and I was like, "Oh fuck, what do I do with that now?" So I did a few videos on the 8-bit man shed with Simon, and they were um, I'm a terrible actor, so it's badly acted, and whatever. But kids enjoyed them, and my friends' kids still watches them. And then I did one video of Simon reviewing a Mega Drive, a Genesis game, Captain Planet, and it's mostly swearing. So, but that was fun. I'll send it to you if you want to. But
Please do. I have to put that in the notes.
and and but yeah, so stuff like that. And then I started using him when I was getting sponsorships on my cover. So at the beginning of the videos, I do my own sponsorship sometimes, or just Patreon and that kind of stuff. But I got a few sponsorships and equipment sent to me, so I'd use him as a sort of a sidekick, just to kind of lighten the fact that it was a sponsorship segment, and that
Hmm.
worked well as well. So people kept asking for more Simon. And one day I did a track called Square Roots for the Stone Age Gamer podcast
Hmm.
for their intro. And it was just a 30-second little chip tune type of stuff that I did in Pro Tracker actually. And so they liked it. And I was like, it should be a full tune. So I did a full tune version. And I was trying to find a way to release it on the channel with a video, because I don't want to just show the tracker playing. I think I did once, but yeah, it's so I wanted something else. So I used the puppet to just, I don't know, yeah, do a little skit video with the puppet. And I think the one you saw that I reposted recently was the second one I did. I think it was at the beginning of the pandemic, so back in 2020 or something like that.
Because I definitely remember seeing the puppet alongside you a couple of times at some other in some context, but I'd never seen that video, that specific one you put on Twitter. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
that one was
okay.
just hilarious.
Yeah, no, I've two of that squared roots and that squared roots too, and I've a few on the 8-bit man shed, but they're sort of hidden. They're not enlisted, but they're buried deep in the channel. So I don't know, maybe one day it'll be recommended. As soon as you start, I'll send you that other one, the review one, and I'm sure as soon as you watch that one, you'll probably get a recommendation for others.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. Sometimes you just need silly shit to cheer yourself up, and I think that one's going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's silly. The amount of people that hated it, especially when I did the sponsorship. Um, when I say the amount, it's probably 4 or 5 people in the comments ever. But that's always the stuff you focus on. You could have 5 million people saying I love your stuff, but there's one guy getting it that says, you're a bit too old for that. You want to go,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Yeah, that the emotional response to that is something that still absolutely fascinates me. And for me personally, with everybody has bad days, that's obviously probably the biggest factor, but the when the video came out versus the comment is a big deal. So I just spent 40 hours on a video
yeah,
along with my normal weekly stuff that I already do. And I just painstakingly got every detail right. Every oscilloscope measurement was down to the millivolt, and everything was great, but I misspelled the title card, and somebody jokingly calls me out on it, and I'm like, fuck you, fuck your
yeah, yeah,
family,
yeah.
fuck your family's family. And it's like, if that comment had come 2 days later, I would have been like, oh, I'm such a moron, you're
Yeah,
right. But it's
sorry,
just
I'll
like,
fix it. Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what you're concentrating on after all this work. That's what you. So yeah, it's funny.
I'm very much the same, and the other one that gets me as well, and it still does to this day, is like you said, you spent 2 weeks on a video and every detail right. You released it to, you've made it up to a point where you're happy with it for it to be released, like according to your standards of quality, and then somebody, the amount of time, like it happens every video, but somebody will go, do Donkey Kong Country next, or or this tune when. And it's like, could you actually spend like type 5 words just to acknowledge the work that was done, and then maybe, oh, I'd love
Yeah,
to hear Donkey Kong. Like, there's a way to ask for stuff.
absolutely. And if you had seen that comment 6 months later, you'd be
Yeah,
like, oh, you know what? That's a good suggestion. I'll add that to my
yeah,
list.
yeah.
But
Which
day
I do,
one,
yeah,
yeah, the seventh comment on the video is that. And it's like,
yeah.
come on,
Can you at
serious?
least acknowledge the work, please? But that's
Yeah.
just, it's inevitable, and people don't mean ill by it. Even when it's negative, they think they're helping, and you got to keep that in mind. What I do, if it's really, really sort of negative, or even if it's just annoying me in any slight way, I just delete the comment. And I've no problem doing that. The reason I've explained myself a few times, but the reason I delete the comment is it's sort of out of sight, out of mind for me.
Mhm.
And people
Yeah.
might call me out on it and say, oh, you can't take it. You're right, I can't take it. So it's easier to delete it, because two things are going to happen if I don't delete it. I'm going to reply to it, and it's going to escalate, and it's good for neither of us. Like,
Hmm.
I want to have a good day, and I'm sure you do as well. So let's not go that way. Or somebody else is going to come to my defense, and you both going to have a bad day on me, and I don't want that either. So it's just easier to delete, and go on my merry way, and you go on your merry way, and maybe hopefully you won't notice. Or by delete, I just mean hide the comment. They can still
Yeah.
see it, but nobody else can.
That is a very level-headed and loving way to look at it. Mine is so much douchier than that, just pompous and shitty. My outlook is, if YouTube is going to force us to leave comments on and not promote the video if we turn them off, because what if we just don't have time to deal with it? And you're held responsible for some of the stuff that's in your comments. So if I'm being forced to do this, then I'm making it a safe place for anybody to come hang out in.
Yeah,
And if you don't like it, you could go on Reddit and talk about it. And I promise you, it's definitely going to hurt my feelings.
yeah.
So yeah, that's my middle finger in the air of response to that.
Or there's that option as well, of course. But yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely because I can't take it, and I don't want to have to take it. I'm 47, and I do what I do. I don't do it for anybody's approval either, but at the same time, it's just, I don't do it to get shit on, which rarely happens. I have to be honest. I mean,
Oh, it's
it,
all day for me. It's a
yeah,
different world. That's why
but
I'm
you
just like,
you run
fair,
and
fair, fair. Go fuck yourself.
yeah.
Hide, ban forever. It's just, yeah,
But that's true
it's
for
brutal
any sort of
sometimes.
advice channel, and like, that's what you do. You have an environment where you give advice and recommend stuff, and give your opinion on stuff. Like, even on my retro channel, I don't give my opinion on. I just, this is what I do.
Mm,
Done. So I don't recommend really anything. I don't give my opinion really on topics or anything like that. But it's not by choice. I suppose it's just the way I do things anyway. Um,
yeah. I think my favorite comments are the ones that are like, you're just lying about this product to sell your cables, because they're not smart enough to realize that RetroRGB is not retro access or retro gaming cables. The
yeah,
only thing the same about the three of us is there's the word retro in it. Those are the ones that always crack me up. Like, I don't sell cables. I never have.
yeah. So my friend Terrible Fire, who makes the TF cards for the Amiga, the accelerator cards,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's how we became friends. But a few years ago, he had to literally delete all the videos on his channel and leave YouTube for a while.
Oh man,
He was
that
just
sucks.
getting people. He was just getting, yeah, people complaining on his products, and yeah, he was just nonstop. And so he was like, okay, well, I've had enough, and he closed his channel, because yeah, it's a weird. We talk about it quite often, and it's just, I've told him, I think he's going to reopen his channel. He's sort of started already, but um, I told him, just don't engage first. Don't engage. If it gets to you the same way it gets to me, just don't engage. Delete the comment and move on with your day. Because some people are able to take it. You might be able to take it and reply back and fire back. I'm not. I'm not wired that way. So it's like, yeah, let's just.
It's a weird side effect of like never fitting in ever in my whole life. Like I hated it until I was in my like mid 20s, like my late teens. Like I discovered booze and drugs, and I just didn't give a shit about anything. So that was actually really
Yeah.
really nice. But I didn't let it overcome me, so I was still able to get a job and work. And then by the time I hit my mid 20s, I was just like, I don't really give a shit. I'm me, whatever. But the side effect of that is like I don't if I know I'm doing the right thing, it's fine if everybody hates me. And the other side effect is I don't get the tribalism factor. You don't see me blindly join a side and wave whatever flag's
Oh
being
yeah,
waved
yeah.
because it's
No, no.
popular. It's just me in the middle going, fuck you both. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'm going to piss both sides off. So,
Yeah, that doesn't help anyone. Just being, yeah, tribalism, like the way you describe it, no, it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the people who are in Team A, and doesn't help the people who are in Team B either. It's just,
yeah.
um, yeah. I remember we had a discussion with a friend, with Terrible Fire actually, who was here for Amiga Ireland, where we were talking about genres of music and how some people get really into metal or a certain type of metal, and just it gets broken even more little smaller tribes within
Hmm.
that, even like, and everybody hates on each other. If you like metal, how can you like EDM as well? Like it's, you cannot,
Yeah.
like, so it's that form of tribalism. And I was telling him, I said, that reminds me of something somebody said to me, one of my musical mentor. But I said that's people essentially who've taken themselves or what they like too seriously, or no, taken themselves too seriously over what they like. And because I remember him saying about, do something that you like, take that seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. So in that sense, it's like, if you respect your craft, and give it your best shot, and respect the music itself. In that case, it was music, but don't take yourself seriously, because you're just one person. You're just a vector, and it'll open you to other realms of music and other options and other tribes.
Yeah.
So it's a way to avoid tribalism in that sense. Like, just respect what you do, but, or, treat it seriously, but not yourself. You're just somebody among everybody else. Like,
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the other thing being, I joke about metal being born in my veins just because I've always loved
oh
it
yeah,
so much,
absolutely.
but I love all kinds of music.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I found was that a lot of people who get that tribalist mentality about metal are people who put on the t-shirt that all the other people that they hang out with did, and put on the
of
same
course. Yeah,
shoes and grew
yeah,
their hair out the
yeah.
same way because they needed to join a tribe. They didn't actually even like metal. They needed to feel like they fit in somewhere. And for me, I was always, in my piece of shit old 79 Camaro with the windows down, and you could maybe see me horns up listening to death metal, or you might see me, dropping a tab of acid listening to Aqua, which is still amazing.
Yeah, yeah, or
So
Deadma. Absolutely, I love EDM in general. Like, there's
yeah,
a few synths here, and there's electric guitars here, and so yeah, no, I love all type of music. But it's even beyond that. Like, I do a lot of surfing here, and my worst. I was gonna say earlier about tribal, like, as gamers, we
mm,
see the Pac-Man and Nintendo T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. I don't have any of that first to start with, because it's just one of the things I do. Like, I like playing video games, and obviously my channels are geared towards gaming in general. But it's just, I see it as just one of the things I do. The other thing I do is surfing. I surf probably more than I play video game or play music. And I wouldn't want to hang around surfers no more than I would want to hang around gamers. The same thing. Like, I used to teach and practice judo and karate, but not teach karate, But but yeah, you wouldn't see me hanging around with just martial art martial art crowds. It just, that would be my idea of hell, just talking about that one thing. I'd rather hang around with somebody I have nothing in common with, and talk about what they do, or explain to them what it is I do as well. Like, I find that much more interesting than just sort of staying in that little circle where it's the same conversations every time.
yeah. I find the people I get along with the most are people that when I ask a question, they don't automatically assume that I'm criticizing or wagging a finger at. It doesn't really matter what subject we're
Oh,
talking
yeah, yeah,
about,
of
because
course.
you could come in and, tone of voice, body language is a lot, but you could come in and be like, why do you listen to metal? And it would be very easy for somebody to be like, why don't you go fuck yourself? Where it's like, sometimes questions like that are valid. And,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes the answers are things that people have never discovered. Like, well, my ADD brain and the complexity of the music, plus I'm a guitarist. And I've had people hear that answer and go, I'm kind of like that, but I don't really like metal. And I'm like, well, you got to
yeah,
check out Rodrigo y Gabriela, check out most
yeah, yeah,
Spanish music with dance beats to it, and it's interesting. And it's just music's the silly example, but the easy one because of this conversation. But it's still, that applies to every type of open-minded person I've spoken to. Is I just love asking questions and hearing their answers for
yeah.
everything like that.
And it's one of the reason I started this music channel as well, the Banjo Guy, Ollie stuff, because I was at a point where I was kind of not done, but I wanted to get out of that realm of traditional Irish music or Celtic music in general. I'd been involved with for years, and I needed something else to excite me musically. And I pretty much, when I moved to the west coast of Ireland, I pretty much stopped playing music for a few years. I was painting. I was painting for galleries. But anyway, um,
That's awesome.
I wasn't playing any music at all. And then I remember seeing Smooth McGroove, a video of Smooth McGroove doing his a cappella covers, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, and I admired the fact that the guy just went, no, this is the music I want to play, and I'm going to play it. So that's when I tried, I waited for my wife to be away, and one weekend, and I recorded a few tracks like that. And yeah, it obviously worked, but it was just a way for me to learn something different on all these instruments, learn new
Mm.
scales, new ways of playing, and entirely new music. Because the beautiful thing about video game music is that it's not a genre. Like there's not a genre per se as video game music. It's a collection of things, and within that, there's entire genres that exist only in the video game music sort of world. Um, and it has a history in everything. It borrows from every register possibly conceived in music and adds to that and created its own stuff as well. Like some of the tracker music is only tracker music, like keygen type of music.
Mhm.
It only exists in that little realm, not nowhere outside that realm. I find it fascinating. And just yeah, it's a and I try to explain that to people I'm still in contact in the more traditional music realm of where they play only one style, of telling them, because they laugh at me going, oh, you're playing those little Irish video game musics on YouTube. I said, well, it's much deeper than that. They're actually very rich and dense and really interesting compositions.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, can I ask how you got into surfing? Because that's something, as somebody who grew up on the East Coast of the US, that is just a foreign concept. I guess maybe if you'd gone down to Florida, you could kind of Cocoa Beach sort of get into surfing, but around the New York area, anybody that says they're from New York and they surf is lying to you. They do the little bodyboarding and they have a 1 foot wave, and that's
No, no, no,
somebody in the
no, no,
comments is going to
no,
be
no.
like, I'm going to stab you in the face when I see you on the beach the
I
next
will
time. I am
stab
a
you in the face if
surfer.
I see you on the beach, dude.
But
uh,
I mean, it's compared to waves around the world, it's you don't surf in New York, basically.
you do, and anywhere there's water, you do get waves. It's just any amount of any body of water will generate some waves at some, especially the Atlantic. You'll have waves everywhere in the Atlantic. I've seen a great wave north of, I mean, Cape Cod first to start with.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen a great wave north of that as well. I can't quite remember what it's called. It's got that sort of not Galilee or something like that. It's sort of fisherman area. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I've seen the beautiful waves there, and the place was full of surfers. Um, but how I got into surfing?
And
Jeez.
how big are the waves there too? Just so we could kind of paint a picture from what to expect. Because once you get down to Jersey and, like you said, North Cape Cod, once you get to those areas, yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to have times of the year where you have
Yeah.
bigger waves, but not, especially none in Long Island Sound, and
Oh, I
definitely
see
not
what you
quite
mean.
around
No,
the New
no,
York
that's
area.
not
Yeah.
going to happen there. No.
Yeah.
um, So yeah, well, sorry, what was your question then?
Like about how big are the waves around where you surf in
Oh,
Eastern
all
Or
sides. So
in
this
the
this
Dublin Ireland
there. Yeah, I'm on the west coast in Galway,
West Coast? Yeah.
and it depends. Like where I go surfing, it's a beach just nearby. It's handy because I can just go surf for a couple of hours, come back, and still get on with my day. Um, so I don't know, up to head high type of waves,
Mhm.
overheads. On a good day.
That's awesome.
It's usually waist to chest high type of stuff. Um, Down the road from that is a place called Eileen's, and people are using jet skis to get towed into 25, 30-foot waves.
Jeez, that stuff fascinates me. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Like I've surfed all my life. I started when I was again 14 or something like that, and so I sort of know what I'm doing at this stage in the water. But big wave surfing is different exercise, and I know a few people that go surf those big waves, and they're just wired differently. It's the difference between, like, I've done judo all my life as well. I have a black belt. I've worn a few,
Hmm.
All Ireland, that kind of stuff. Like I I was okay, but it's the difference between doing that and going into MMA.
Mm.
It's just you need to be wired completely differently, and it just their fear kind of response is completely different to mine. They actually
Mm.
seek that thrill. I don't. I like, if I'm uncomfortable in the water at any point of time, I leave, or I don't even get in sometimes. But they'll just go, "Oh my god, this, yeah, let's get in." Their fear response is completely different. I find people like that fascinated, but because they just they operate on a completely different level from you and I. One of my friend neighbor here just rode on a big kayak that she can sleep in, but rode from Ireland, no, from the Canaries, in the south of Morocco, to America. She rode across the Atlantic on her own.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
That is a
crazy.
healthy response. That
Yeah.
is a very healthy response. Her response is
Wow.
she wants to do around the world now.
I mean, I
Yeah,
love the passion for stuff like that,
yeah.
and I think we all. I definitely strive to do that in my own little way, but I can't fathom stuff like that.
No,
Like
no, and
I've
and
raced motorcycles before, and I've had people look at me like, "So you want to die, right?" Like, no,
yeah,
no, the opposite. I do this because I love life. Like, what are you crazy? So it's funny now that I'm having that same response to your friend, even though it's the same thing people had said to me. But yeah, that's not for me. Good luck.
yeah.
That's insane.
And it's, I know her. She's wired differently, and it's, if people like that are fascinating to watch how they operate life as well, because they're well able for some stuff, but they're completely socially inept for other stuff. It's just yeah, they live for that scenario in that moment. A friend of mine is a firefighter, and he surfs those big waves, and he sees like a 30-40 foot wave and just gets excited and giddy, and he's scared as well, but just the fact that he can overcome that and just override that fear is just,
Hmm.
I don't get it. I don't have that.
Yeah, I kind of I've had moments of that, but I don't think that's me as a person. But the wave thing, if I grew up in a place where there were waves, I would absolutely be a surfer. There's no doubt in my
Yeah.
mind. Every time I saw anything like that on TV, I would always watch stuff. I followed Kelly Slater since
Oh
before you
yeah,
could,
yeah.
before you could do that. I know that's the easy one, right? Baywatch and shit, but still,
It's
it was
Kelly
just one of
Slater.
those things.
He's been world champion 11 times. Like, there's
Yeah,
nobody else in the world of sport that comes close to that level of achievement.
yeah. It's just I've
Even
watched.
somebody like Michael Jordan, or just doesn't come close.
Mm,
Like, he's yeah,
yeah, all that stuff's great.
he's won more world titles than people have won events.
That's crazy. And it's
Yeah,
just it's so impressive and so weird and just the balance. But you got to be aware of everything. At least on a motorcycle, right? I could on a well balanced bike, I could do this, and the thing's not moving at all. The bike's not moving. I just keep my butt centered. You can't do that on a you can't do that on a surfboard. You
Yeah,
start waving your arms
there's
around.
very high barrier to entry before you get to surf a wave properly. But it's the cool thing. The thing I like about surfing is that it's fun even when you're bad at it, because it's the sea, it's the water, and if you go surfing mostly in summer, then you just get the blue skies, and it's just very festive and summery, and so there's something about that that is just makes it fun anyway. You're in the water, you're happy out. Yeah. So surfing is a fun activity even when you're bad at it. There's very few other sports that are fun even when you get, if karate or martial arts isn't fun when you get beaten down all the time. And I've
Funny,
done.
that's the exact example I use about video games. Like I go up against my friend Arturo all the time, and he always whoops my ass. But he'll do it in a way where maybe he's gonna use a character he doesn't normally use, practice some moves where I'm just trying my butt off, and you could get your butt kicked at a video game 10 times in a row
Yeah,
and
and still
still
have
have an
fun. Yeah, that's true.
amazing time.
Yeah,
Whereas you go to a judo match and you get your butt kicked 10 times in a row, it's not so fun, I guess,
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
really good at it.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I got to think about that with surfing then. If I'm ever in an area that I could do it, I would love to just try it once. Because I've done the body surfing, but that's not the same. Just a fat guy
Well, that's
balancing on a
that
board. Like, it's
that's still fun, body surf, because you're getting tossed around in waves.
true.
Like, it's still very enjoyable. I do that even like if there's no surfable waves. I have like hand planers, like
Hmm.
little boards that you slide on your hand and just surf waves like that. Like however
Oh, that's
way,
neat.
yeah, however way I can, like, in the water.
I
I
didn't even know that was the thing,
Yeah.
the handboards like that.
If you watch a man called Jamie O'Brien, he's a big channel. He's coming to 1 million subscribers on this channel. He's one of those
Mm,
surfers that kind of said "f you" to the tour and decided to do some stuff. And he's embraced YouTube really early on
mm.
and kept at it. And he lives on the north shore of Oahu, so he's right at Pipeline. He's Mr. Pipeline. And he's got a regular, like, once a week. It used to be twice a week. Once a week, he releases a new video, and it's Hawaii. It's warm water, blue skies, and him surfing some of the most dangerous breaks on the planet. But whenever he can't surf, he uses those hand planners stuff as well, and just gets in the water however way he can. Yeah,
That's cool. I just looked up his channel and left myself a note
yeah,
for that. So
yeah.
it's
And he's a very enjoyable character. He's very happy-go-lucky type of guy. But I admired what he did, which was just went, no, I'm going to craft my career for myself outside of the tour. He did a few events and tour for a bit, but kind of shied away from that and embraced YouTube as a medium to earn a living and promote, his brand as well. He's got a clothing shop and that kind of stuff, and
that's cool.
affiliate stuff. So yeah, it seems to be going really well for him. It's cool to watch. Yeah,
Yeah, what's the water temperature like in Western Ireland like that? 'Cause-
I don't know in Fahrenheit, but it's at the moment it's 8 degrees Celsius. So that is what.
so
Um,
do you normally have to wear a bodysuit then when you go?
oh yeah, you're in all year round. Like it's yeah. I have a
Because that was
wetsuit.
one of the things that really got me when I was in the first time I went to San Diego. It was like 80 degrees. I forgot what that is in Celsius too. I used to know when I would travel around the world, but
So it's
and I remember
46
walking on.
at the
Oh
moment.
yeah, that's chilly. I was
46.
walking down the beach and there was like two tiny little kids playing in the water, and I was like, "Oh, that looks nice." And I took my shoes off, I rolled my pants up. I got one toe in the water, and my entire soul went, "This is a terrible idea. What are you doing? This is freezing."
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's 46 at
wetsuits.
the moment. I've surfed I'm just doing the conversion in 42 degrees water before, and in summer you'd be lucky if it gets to 60.
Wow. Yeah, that's cold. That's very cold. Yeah, like
But
I
well,
was in Puerto
it's
Rico once, and
oh
stepping
yeah,
into the water was like the same temperature as the air.
yeah,
You
yeah,
do that thing where you put your foot in, and you're like, "How cold is it going to be?" And you're like, "Now I'm up to my knees," and I'm like, "Am I even in?" Wow, this is amazing.
yeah, yeah. We went to Hawaii on our honeymoon, and it was the same stuff to us. Like, and I've seen somebody not getting in because they were saying it's too cold, and my wife and I would literally run in and not feel a difference between the air and the water.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's that's definitely more for me. It's like that, and I went to Jamaica once too. It was kind of like that there as well. You can go just in the middle of the night, just walk right into the ocean, and it's
Yeah,
nice and warm.
but yeah, no, surfing I recommend it for anybody that. It's like you said, it's just fun. Even if you get your ass kicked, it's just fun. It's a great way to stay in shape, burn so many calories every time you have a session. Like I'm at the stage I'll stay 4 hours easily in the
Oh wow.
water. So yeah, you burn a ton of calories. Um, so you can have a pizza afterwards and not even put on a single gram of, of weight.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds like I need to start surfing.
But yeah, no, it's a fun one. Like I've done a lot of sports in my life, and a lot of martial arts as well. Which it's another great way to stay in shape, but it can be it's a lot more mentally tough than surfing would be. Yeah, it's the most fun thing I've ever done. I would actually even say if you put a gun to my head and ask me to choose between me playing music and surfing, I'd pick surfing anytime. If I could do
Hmm,
that one thing for the rest of my life, yeah, definitely, yeah.
that's
Now
awesome.
you'd have to guarantee me perfect waves every day, but
Yeah. It may be a little warmer water for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Well, so obviously I'm going to be linking to your Patreon, of course, because anybody that wants to support you, that's always the best
Thank
place
you.
for people to go. But if you're not in the position to do that, everybody, consider telling other people about it, and at the very least, subscribe to your two channels. I will be subscribed to the second, the moment this ends. I do feel silly that I didn't think to check that beforehand. I just have been following your music for a while, so. But is there any other place that people should look for you, and any other events or anything you have coming up that you want to talk about?
Not really. I'm working at the moment on the music for a game, but I'm under NDA, so that's it. So
No,
that's all I
it's
can
fair.
say. And yeah, Twitch. I stream pretty much every day on Twitch. It's a radio, so it's just the covers back to back, just
Hmm.
playing. So like Monday, we just play stuff from 2015 and or 14 up to 16. Tuesday, it's 2017, 2018, that kind of stuff, all the way through the week. That way, and I'm present in the chat. It's just we just communicate in the chat there. So if you want to just have music in the background when you're working away from home or doing anything, you can join in that. Um, and other than that, no, yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, YouTube, Banjo Guy Ollie. That's it.
Cool. Well, I will put obviously links to all of that
Thank
stuff
you.
in the show notes, but I always like to talk it out too in case you're like me and you're doing a million other things while you're listening. At least you could hear in the back of your head, like, all right, I got to get up to Ali on Twitch now and make sure I can subscribe. So, well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you
This
very
was
much, dude. That was fun.
yeah, it's a very fun chat. Next time, you got it, maybe after your video game soundtrack's done, we could just do a fun little follow up, and you could talk about what it was like to do that and
Talk about it,
how
yeah.
how it was.
I'm excited. That'll be the second video game I worked on, so that'll be cool.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, Ollie. We'll
All
talk to
right,
you
dude.
soon.
Bye
Bye.
bye.